to talking tough on this public servants issue in terms of this wage agreement. You'll know, of course, from that interview, Francis said the Public Servants Association has refused to sign the agreement. They're the ones who've essentially halted the conclusion of these protracted negotiations. Of course, you would have heard earlier that the minister was scheduled to make a big announcement today. That hasn't happened. So where do they come in on this picture, and what exactly do they want to be on the table? Well, we are joined now in studio by Tahir Maepa, who is from the Public Servants Association. Good evening to you, and thank you for talking to us. As I said, the announcement didn't come, COSATU and how they are talking tough, but all eyes are on you and Fidusa. They say you're the ones who are the stumbling block. Why haven't you signed?
Well, obviously we didn't sign because of the offer of the employer is not worth the paper that is written on, and we've been consistent as far as that is concerned. And if I were to take you a little bit back, the first offer that we were given on the 26th of January, we rejected that offer. And then on the 4th of May, there was another offer, which we rejected. On the 18th of May, another offer was given, all of a sudden, which is identical to the offer that was given on the 26th of May. Suddenly we hear that there were certain unions who wanted to accept that offer. And for us, that was an irony, because we believe that as collective as labor, we have agreed that this offer is not worth our consideration. So
you think COSATU have betrayed you?
Well, look, every union has got their own mandating process. They've got their own right to agree or to disagree to any deal. But for us, it's ironical that the offer that we have rejected collectively all of a sudden is enticing to some of the unions. We are told that Pope Cruz signed today, for instance, which was part of the negotiations from the beginning.
But let's look at what's on offer. I mean, we've moved from a position where in October last year, most of the unions were demanding 10 to 12%. Yes. The deal that's on the table is looking at around 7% for junior employees, backdated to April the 1st, when the previous agreement lapsed. Mid-level employees will be at 6.5%. Senior staff will be at 6%. These are all increases that are above CPI. It seems a fair deal.
No, it's not a fair deal at all. In fact, what you are mentioning now, that is not the case. The 26th of January was CPI plus 2, which was a CPI that is supposed to be determined by the employer. Now, when you say projected CPI, basically we are giving the employer a latitude to decide, because we are not involved in determining what CPI is going to look like. So the first offer, even though it was punted as if it is 7%, it was never 7%. And you must also remember that when we gave these demands, by then there was no VAT increase. When VAT was increased, it complicated the whole situation. The cost of living went up immediately after that particular announcement. As you know, that petrol will be going up. So there's a number of other downside to these negotiations that we had to reconsider as labor, to say that with all these decisions that the employer has taken, what are the implications moving forward for the public servants?
But SATU, NEHAU, POPCRU, as you mentioned, DENOSA, all of these unions are basically saying they're ready to sign. It's only you who are sticking to these finer points around what has been agreed. I mean, negotiations are always going to be a give and take. It would appear, at least from the reading of it, that you are not willing to give much.
Well, there was no give and take. People just rolled over the employer. The employer basically insisted on them, and then they agreed with the employer. And this is where the problem is. There's nothing that has changed. The only thing that has changed in this revised offer is the fonts of this agreement, nothing else. And that is why I'm saying it's ironical that there's even one union that says they're going to accept this offer.
But as we sit here, government looks like they're going to go ahead without you. They're going to play tough, and they're going to accuse you of being petulant.
Well, they've already done that. Not only government, even some unions, they've made all sorts of accusations against the PSA. But nonetheless, we represent the aspirations of the public servants, and majority of the public servants, as far as we are concerned, and the surveys that we have made, they totally reject this particular offer.
But at this stage, it looks like if they do sign, if all the other unions come on board with the agreement that's on the table, your members are going to be left out in the cold. Where does that place you? Because as you correctly pointed out, if Labour is not united, it's meaningless. It's divide and conquer, and government is winning.
Yes. As it stands now, the agreement doesn't enjoy the majority. And I think the pressure that we've put since Friday, everybody was singing at the PSABC, saying that they are accepting the offer. Today, some unions are saying that they've never said that, which is a good thing. It means that the pressure that we've put at the PSA is finally coming to fruition. However, if for whatever reason the majority of the union side would have been defeated, not by the employer, by our own Labour comrades.
But the minister was ready to make a big announcement with much fanfare. There was a media conference that was scheduled. She wouldn't have made those moves if she wasn't confident that something was more or less concluded here.
Of course. That's why I'm saying on Friday, the unions were singing at the PSABC, accepting the offer. So they did give the minister an impression that this offer is going to be accepted, is going to be signed. But due to pressure of the PSA, we went out and we spoke to the public servants at large and explained to them the current situation. That is why you see other unions are saying that they are no longer signing.
I spoke earlier to the minister. We've got a public wage bill that's sitting at around 570 odd billion rand and growing. Surely at some stage something's got to give. All of this is unsustainable.
Well, the issue of sustainability, we need to have that discussion, because you are talking about what the minister said. That has never been an argument of the state. The state has never come to us and say we are bankrupt, we need money. But at the end of the day, does that mitigate the fact that currently the public servants are underpaid? It doesn't. And if you look at how the fiscal is dealt with, much of our money is being spent on corruption, on ill-fated issues. If we can cap down on such things, I'm sure we'll be able to afford not only the salaries, but the services that are needed by the poorest of the poor.
But there is a thought that suggests that with a bloated public service, as the wage bill gets higher and higher, ultimately what's going to happen is that the government is going to have to shed jobs. Public sector jobs will be lost, and people will put it all to moments like this.
But how that argument again, to me, doesn't make sense. Currently, we've got over 200,000 positions that are vacant. Calculated, that is the savings that the government is
Some of those are not being filled because there's no money.
But they are not being filled, but the public service is falling apart.
But that's what I'm saying.
Who's going to...
Because there's no money.
But the issue is, it's not the salaries of the public servants that makes the government to not to have money. We need to look at the real cause. And until we address that, this situation is not going to come to an end.
So absolutely no light at the end of the tunnel.
There's no light as far as we are concerned. We are balloting our members, and we are encouraging public servants as a whole to reject this offer and to put pressure on their unions who signed this offer, so that we can be able to hold the employer to account.
All right, that was Tahir Maepa from the Public Servants Association, giving us their perspective. Clearly, this matter is not going to be resolved very soon. The minister was hopeful, but the unions, as you heard for yourself, they are digging deep.